Okay. All right, I'm just giving it a moment for everybody to join, and then I'll get started. So we're just giving it a little bit of time. Welcome, welcome. I see a lot of people coming in, so that's exciting. All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. Oh, hi. Nice to see you. Glad you could join. Hello, hello. Hi. Hello. This is fun. Okay, so maybe I'll give it a couple more seconds and then we'll just jump right in. All right. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Jillian Avendano, and I'm the program director for FIU's Center for International Business Education and Research. We are a center at Florida International University. We're one of 15 centers, and we are working with a Title VI federal grant from the Department of Education with the main initiative of promoting U.S. competitiveness in international business. And so we are having this webinar series, which I'm glad that you can join, and it's called International Content Expansion. And this topic that we're working with today is a very interesting one, and one that I'm very passionate about. And what we're going to be discussing is, post-COVID. Previously, it was very easy to get international experience. You could just travel somewhere. I mean, of course, there's lots of little things along the way because it costs money and it's not so easy. But now post-COVID, we have to find new ways of doing things and new ways of professors getting international experience when you can't travel, or students getting international experience if you can't participate in a study abroad or maybe an international internship or service learning. And so we have a very esteemed team here of panelists who have been working with international education for a very long time and have kind of found ways to pivot in these interesting times that we're all living in. And so I'd like to introduce each one of them, and we have the pleasure of hearing a little bit about what they're working on. So first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sumit Kundu. He works at Florida International University in the field of international business. He's an eminent scholar, and he's also the Associate Dean for International at FIU for the College of Business. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about some opportunities for professors to gain internationalization virtually. We also have Dr. David Wernick, who is a professor at Florida International University. That's Dr. Wernick there in the middle. And he also works as a faculty advisor for the International Business Honor Society. And each year that group travels to India and does service and learns from a women's cooperative in India. Then we also have Mr. Anup Nair. He's the managing director of Inspiration India. He's actually joining us this evening from India. It's pretty late over there, so we thank you for staying up a little late with us. And he helps us to, work on some of these projects that we're working with at FIU. And he's been in the travel industry for over 40 years. And he was a previous educator in Africa working in Ethiopia and Nigeria. So he has a lot of experience in the field as well. So I'm excited to hear from everyone today. We have the question and answer box. So please feel free to add any questions that you have, and they'll be answered along the way. If there's anything that's not answered, just let us know. Feel free to shoot us an email and we'll make sure that your question gets answered. And I would like to see in the chat box ways that you're at your institution, what things are you doing differently now post-COVID when travel is not possible, but you really would like your students to get this type of experience? Is it like collaborative online international learning? Are you doing virtual study abroad? What are you doing, or what things are you thinking of doing now. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Sumit Kundu to start. And, we're here. I'm just going to turn off my camera, but I'm here. And, I'm looking forward to it. So let's get started.
Thank you, Jillian. Good morning to all of you. Wherever you are from, I should say rather good afternoon, good evening to all of you. It's an honor and a pleasure and a delight to be here this morning, joining you all from Miami, Florida. So I'm the person who is in charge of all international programs and partnerships in the College of Business at FIU. So FIU takes a lot of pride and honor in highlighting international business, and we are very strongly, focused on Latin America. But having said that, now, we are also looking into Europe and Asia. It's a difficult times. 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of us, wherever we are, whether in the Americas or Europe or Asia. And the question that we always ask is, how can we better serve students? At the end of the day, as an institution of higher education, and those of you who may not know FIU, we are the fourth largest public university in the United States of America with 58,000 students, of which I think 11,000 students are in the College of Business. And we are the largest business school in the state of Florida. But having said that, we take a lot of pride in international business because we are ranked number 2 by the US News World Report in the undergraduate IB program, and we are ranked number 8 in the international MBA program. So there are several rankings which we'll not talk this morning, but we have done an excellent job in showcasing international efforts on the part of College of Business. So what we are going to talk today is a little bit about how the world has changed. What was the past, what is the present, and what is the future. So we have always believed that international experience is a very important element for student learning. So in FIU, I basically head a unit called the Office of Global Initiatives. It stands for OGI. And OGI basically manages close to 700 students, 500 undergraduate international students, and 200 graduate international students. And we have about close to 50 plus partnerships all over the world, encompassing Latin America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. Now, in the past, we had something called the Faculty Development in International Business Program, which was started in 2008. And it was designed primarily for faculty members who were interested in going to India and to learn about India, bring that experience back to their classroom and share that with their colleagues, as well as to get to know some colleagues with whom they can collaborate on research front. So we'll be focusing on our efforts this year on something called a virtual PDIB program, Professional Development in International Business India program, which is going to basically be run sometime in December of this year in 2020. Last year, we are very blessed and fortunate to take a group of about 10 or 12 faculty members to India, traveling to Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, Delhi, and with a side visit to Agra to see the beautiful Taj Mahal. So we always believe that what is a value proposition for our students? And international experience, experiential learning is a very important element of the whole equation. We always believe that let's do something differently, which other institutions do not have the capacity, capability, but in which we can shine, and which we have done for the past many years. So international experience, experiential learning is a very important element. And in this context, we have also invited faculty members from different institutions in something called COIL. COIL is an acronym for Collaborative Online Integrated Learning, whereby faculty members from different institutions collaborate with FIU business faculty to basically run courses so that we can have, case study exchanges and so on and so forth. So I think it's a very important part of the mission of FIU in what we are and what we stand for. You'll be hearing from two very distinguished panelists, who have a wealth of experience. Dr. Wernick, who has basically taken the charge of the International Business Honors Society and the service learning projects, and he goes to India every year. And then we have Mr. Anup Nair, who has been instrumental in helping me and collaborating with me on the FDIB, the Faculty Development in International Business Program, as well as PDIB program, which is going to talk about. So I think, when I think about today's world, which is a virtual world, given that most of the curriculum and classes are being taught through remote learning or high flex model or online. So we have to prepare our students to think, outside the box, be innovative and a creative way, because they cannot travel and leave their home country, but they can visit virtually in different part of the world and learn from them, learn from the experience which is presented to them either through the partner institutions or faculty in those universities. So we are living in very difficult times, unprecedented times, and new challenges. But with new challenges comes new opportunities. We believe firmly in that. And now we are basically designing a curriculum to extend our virtual frontier, which is changing the entire competitive landscape for the higher education learning. So I think a very important part of FIU is to basically showcase that yes, this is a new business model for all of us. We have to adapt and embrace the new challenges and new realities. But along with that, we shall not forget about what we stand for, which is the international. Internationalization is an important element of FIU business in whatever it does. And we'll be hearing, from these two distinguished panelists in terms of what they have done with respect to their programs. So I welcome you all to, who are here today to join us for this, delightful discussion. And I hope to hear from you all, getting your perspective and feedback to the chat box. And we'll be responding to your queries, as and when it comes. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity and time to hear us out. And I'm going to pass on the floor to Dr. David Wernick. Thank you.
All right. So greetings. Thank you, Dr. Kundu. I am Professor David Wernick, and I am delighted to be here today to talk to you about service learning. Quick shout out to Jillian for organizing this webinar. Cyber is doing a fantastic job providing really valuable experiences for our students and our faculty, and just grateful for the work that you're doing. Yeah, so I read this paper the other day about the challenge of preparing young people to be future global leaders. Okay, and they argued that business school educators need a paradigm shift. We need to stop viewing our jobs as being purveyors of ideas and information and start viewing it as mentors who transmit competencies. Okay, well, what are they talking about? What kind of competencies? Well, contextual understanding, perspective taking, intercultural intelligence and empathy. And the best way to do that, they argued, was through experiential learning, particularly experiences that are transformational. Now at FIU, as my colleague, Dr. Kundu mentioned, we place a big emphasis on experiential learning. Much of this centers on study abroad. I myself take students to Asia every summer, although not this past summer for obvious reasons, where we meet with business leaders and government officials, and we visit cultural and historical sites. In fact, 2 summers ago, we visited South Korea. And it just so happened that we were in South Korea at the time that President Trump was in South Korea. I had no part in arranging that. That was, coincidental. And we actually were at the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, on the very day where he had his historic meeting with Kim Jong-un. And my students felt that they were witnessing history, which was really cool. And so these study abroad trips are great, but are they truly transformational? Sometimes yes, other times no. Another project that I'm involved with is, I think, truly transformational, and I'd like to tell you about it. Okay, so this is a service learning project in India where we work with a women's cooperative just outside of New Delhi in a village, a poor village called Bandwari Village. And I take students there every spring break, and we work with the cooperative helping the women design handicrafts for export to the United States. While we're there, we also volunteer our time in a primary school working with the local village children, teaching them math, teaching them English. And I feel like we're accomplishing something very special with this project, a sustainable social enterprise. And it has the potential to change the lives of a dozen women, a couple of dozen women in India. But I would submit to you that this project already has changed lives, the lives of my students. And it's not only our work in the village, as impactful as that is, it's the side trips that we take while we're in India. A visit to a shelter for orphans and street kids in New Delhi. Now, I gotta tell you, I'm sure that it's not good to be a street kid anywhere in the world, but to live on the street in one of the big cities in India, live in the railway station, that is really a tough, unimaginable for most of us existence, okay? So the work that they are doing is just extraordinary, okay? Providing shelter and education and health services and so forth. We visit an elephant sanctuary near Agra. We visit with the executives of a hotel chain that goes out of its way to hire workers with severe physical and mental disabilities, okay? They're not doing it for CSR. They're not doing it for philanthropy. They're doing it because they found that these people, these workers, that once they're trained and brought up to speed are incredibly hardworking, incredibly dedicated. So they've expanded the program, and now they're hiring people from economically and socially marginalized communities, as well as survivors of acid attacks. Just, extraordinary program. And that's the Lemon Tree Hotel chain. So we do these types of visits in addition to the work that we do in the village. Now, how do I know that this project and this trip is so impactful? Well, on the eve of our return to the States this past year, we had a farewell dinner at Anoop's house. Anoop and his lovely wife, Raji, graciously host us every year for a wonderful dinner. And each one of the students came up to me at a different point in the evening to thank me for taking them on this trip and to tell me that this had been a life-changing experience for them. Whoa. As an IB educator, that is a home run, okay? So I'd like to share my screen with you for a moment, okay? To give you a brief taste of what this project is all about. So fingers crossed, because I'm still not a pro with this screen sharing stuff.
My name is Andrea. I was born in California, but my parents are from Bolivia. I had a lot of memorable moments here. Of course, with the kids, with the women, and also I would say Holi. I think that it was so wonderful how strangers just opened up their home to us, and they treated us like we were their own, like their family. So I really enjoyed that. And also the dancing. I like dancing in the show that we went to. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
The Bollywood.
The Bollywood, that was fun. But the one thing that I liked the most was with the children. I saw a lot of kids, some kids wanted more candy than others, and they gave it to the ones that had less, and I thought that was very nice.
I'm Sophia, I'm from Venezuela, and my most memorable experience is just receiving so much love. I can't talk. Being able to give so much love, I can't talk. It's just the kids are so happy and the women are so happy, and it just reminds you of how stupid some things are, that you give so much importance to. And I'm done. I can't talk anymore.
I don't even know where to start. They will open their homes like we were their own brothers, sisters. They took care of us. They welcome us. We're just like any of them. They treat us like family. And it opens up your eyes to see how ungrateful we are, and that we're never satisfied with what we have. It makes you rethink if you are really doing something worth your time and helping others. So definitely unforgettable experience.
Yes.
Okay, I hope the audio was sufficient that you could actually hear what they were saying. It's I've seen it a bunch of times, and I just I'm moved by it because you can see how profoundly this experience is affecting the students. So let me tell you a little bit about how this project got started and how it's evolved, and then we had a great addition to this project. We had 3 students that worked over the summer in virtual internships sponsored by FIU Cyber, who have really helped move this project forward. So it started about 5 years ago. My department chair asked me to serve as faculty advisor for the IBHS, International Business Honor Society. It's an organization for students that are interested in international affairs, international business. And something that the group did every year was visit a developing country and volunteer for a week during spring break. In the past, they had gone to Costa Rica, they had gone to Nicaragua. And my first move as the new faculty advisor was to get the students together around a table and ask them if they wanted to continue doing that or if they wanted to do something different, something bigger and bolder. Somebody suggested India. I said, well, that's interesting because I have contacts in India. It just so happened that I went on one of these cyber trips back, I think it was in 2012 that Dr. Kundu was talking about. And on that trip we visited, and the trip was organized by Mr. Nair, who will be talking to you in a moment. On that trip we visited Bandwari village, and I was deeply moved by what I saw, the extreme poverty, the kids dirty and disheveled, but still with bright and gleaming eyes, the schoolhouse, no desks, kids sitting on a dirt floor. So the Incentive Foundation, Anoop's NGO, right? Or there's the travel agency and the NGO. The Incentive Foundation is the NGO. Had adopted the village and was providing medical care and other services. They had established a 1-room women's center where young moms could socialize and do arts and crafts. My idea was to work with these women to create handicrafts that we could sell in the United States. So the students loved that idea. The next question was how to pay for the trip. We got some seed money from the College of Business. The students fundraised for the rest. The next question was what to produce. We found out that the village had a couple of antique sewing machines. These are the crank machines, and some of the women knew how to sew. So somebody suggested purses. Somebody else suggested shawls. I suggested finger puppets. Nobody liked that idea. The decision was a Moroccan style poof, which is like an ottoman type of thing. And the reason is that it was easy and inexpensive to make, compact, easy to transport, high resale value. So we decided our first year to make these poofs, and we arrived in India armed with our designs. We purchased fabrics and buttons and zippers at local markets, and we sat with the women on the floor of the Women's Center, tracing and cutting and stitching. And before leaving, we gave them a crash course in bookkeeping and Excel. By the end of the week, we had a couple dozen poofs to take home, to sell to family and friends. But more importantly, we had the genesis of what we thought could be a profitable enterprise. A couple years later, we went back to the village with a larger group and produced some fashionable tote bags and beach bags. These sold out almost immediately upon our return. As we were preparing for year 3, 2 years ago, something fortuitous happened. I was invited to give a lecture, a guest lecture, to a group of graduate students studying international affairs. And I told them about this project and how it started and the great things that we were doing. And before I finished my talk, a bunch of hands shot up into the air. Can we go too? They wanted to know. So the answer was, why not? I figured the more students that we took to India, the greater positive impact we could have. And after all, graduate students have knowledge and experience and professional contacts that we could tap into that could really help us take this project to the next level. So that was the beginning of a great new partnership. During recent trips, we've produced new products, including a popular yoga bag and colorful Buddha print fabric, tote bags made from recycled saris. And in this past March, we got our first wholesale order, 100 sari tote bags for the Power Up Women's Conference, organized by the College of Business here at FIU. And the proceeds of that transaction were used to buy a new irrigation pump for the primary school, so the kids and their teachers have running water and flush toilets in the village. As mentioned, 3 of my undergraduate students participated in virtual internships over the summer with Anoop. I think I'll let him tell you about that. So I guess in closing, what I'd like to say is that this service project has been truly transformational, both for me and for my students. And I am just so deeply grateful for the institutional support we've received from the College of Business, the Dean's Office, Department of International Business, FIU Cyber, and of course, our amazing partners in India, the Incentive Foundation. So thank you very much, and I will turn it over to Anoop.
Dr. Wernick, I wanted to know if you could please mention a little bit more about the internships, how you've gotten them to be virtual now, and maybe a little bit more about what those students are doing or what they did over the summer. Just quickly, and then we can turn it over to Anoop, but I wanted to.
Yeah, so before COVID, we were planning on doing in-person internships. And of course, we had to shift gears once COVID came along. So we did, and we came up with a plan for them to work virtually with Anoop and Inspiration India, doing various things both on the production end, but particularly on the marketing side. So how can we take these beautiful products that are being made and get them out there and get people to know that they're available and the story behind them. And one of the ideas that we came up with was a competition, a sales competition that we're going to be kicking off next week, where about 20 students are going to compete for a trip, a place on next year's trip to India by trying to sell the most items or the value, the highest value that they can. And we have a shipment of face masks coming in. Okay, so those are going to be the primary items that are going to be sold. And each student will have, this is all being done electronically, a running tally. And they'll be selling them on campus and to friends and family. And so Anoop has put together this order and they've rushed it. And I don't believe it's arrived yet, but I know it's in transit. And so that was part of what we did, coming up with the idea for the competition. And there were also sessions every week that Anoop organized to give the students a background about Indian culture and history and traditions. And each of these sessions was just like a master class and just so rich and valuable. And the feedback from the students was that, you know, wow, this was such a great experience. I learned a lot of, you know, from the professional standpoint, but I also learned a lot about India. And, you know, now I'm eager to go there in person and to really, you know, or in some cases to go back, because a couple of these students had actually been on the trip. And just to, you know, spend more time there, because it's such a fascinating place. So.
There was one question that we had from Jonathan Doe. I don't know if you are able to see the questions.
Hey, Jonathan.
Okay. So it says, David, how do you prepare your students for concerns and criticism around poverty tourism? Do you include any kinds of reflections, assignments prior and post trip to address the concern?
So that's a great question. And I don't have anything formal that that I plan. It's just, you know, a series of meetings and discussions before we go, where we talk about the country. I always bring Anoop in via Skype to talk about the country and to give a background about the village. And we've been visiting the village for so many years now, and this project is so well established. And we're pretty selective in who we take on the trip, that we do get students that are truly, you know, interested in serving. So there's a real service mentality, I would say, amongst the students. But that's not to say that there isn't the occasional student that, you know, does something that maybe is culturally insensitive or inappropriate. And I address those, you know, individually on the spot. So it's a great question. I haven't given it too much thought, but, you know, probably in the future, maybe devoting a little bit more attention to that to make sure that there's no misunderstandings about, you know, why we're there and what we're setting out to accomplish.
And something that I thought of too is that, and may set this aside from just, if you just pick a random place and say, oh, well, let's go help people and, you know, in this country or in that country, that it's sustainable. So each time you go, you're kind of building on the project and really devoting time to working and building that relationship with the women in the cooperative and making sure that, you know, they have all the tools that they need to be successful, and for the students to have experience with working with an international business and, you know, and just really learning along the way.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then, yeah, I guess maybe Anoop would ready to take it away.
Hi. So good day, everybody. I'll say good day because it's good evening here. It's late evening in India. So it's a pleasure to be on this webinar and to be talking to all of you folks who are across the United States, I guess, and several universities. Our association with FIU is a long one. It's been many, many years since we started working out on regular tours that came in from the Masters in Business Administration, the MIB programs. We started that in the first instance. It was a long time ago. But since then, of course, we've had the cyber movement that brought in professors to India over a 10-day program where they not just had interactions with the cultural aspects of India, but also with businesses, and that was the focus. Now that we've had this long experience of working with FIU, and we have been working with several universities in the US, but this experience with FIU is particularly close to my heart because it's we've got more involvement by the faculty and the students in what we're actually doing. I will be talking about three things that's important. One is the virtual internships that was a result of this current situation of COVID. And because of the fact that, in fact, one of the girls from the school, one of the students wanted to come to India and was working with us over the last, 3 months before the COVID actually happened, and wanted to come to India. And she was all set on coming and not just working with us in the travel business, but also to focus on the village. And I guess she was a bit heartbroken when COVID stopped it all happening. And from there, the idea came, well, why don't you try and do this virtually? And we discussed it, and David and I kind of worked over, thought about this, and we came up with an idea that we do a 10-week program. And because Cyber supported it, it was a possibility for us to get this on the road. So we did this program, and we had 3 students who came in every week. We logged in for an hour on a webinar. We spent a little over an hour. We spent at least half an hour, 40 minutes, talking about different aspects of India, because I think it's very important when you come to India. This is very similar to what happens in a real trip, because when we bring people to India on a real trip, we tell the students that you're coming to see a different world. You're coming to see a different lifestyle, a different way of living for the people. And so it's important that they are able to expand their world view about what their travel is actually exposing them to. So on this virtual tour, what we did was 10 weeks of weekly seminars, which I presented a seminar on various aspects of India, on its history, on its religion, on the caste system, on the festivals. It was important to understand it not from just a peripheral perspective, but from a deep rooted perspective, to understand it in great detail. So that when I spoke to them about the village, and they could actually experience the village, they could understand what are the factors that are impacting the life of these women and children in the village. And it's not just directly talking about the village. So I think the virtual internship had a very successful run. It was good for the students, so they could appreciate it in a greater way. The foundation is something which we set up. Inspiration India, the travel company, set up the Incentive Foundation. It's 15 years since we've been in that village. We haven't made major changes, but we have made very small incremental changes. And the involvement of the IBHS students has been something very special for us, because that interaction has helped us bring these students to the students who are coming to the village to understand and appreciate life in the village, and what the people in the village were actually undergoing, and what were their problems and what were their issues, but also helping the people in the village also get an exposure to international students, people coming from abroad with a different perspective in life, and who are able to expose them to a better understanding of this. So it was good from both ways. So what I'll do is I'll talk about the service learning program, which we do with David and the students, and also about the PDIB, which we have been doing for so many years now, but we suddenly were confronted with this challenge of how to do a PDIB without actually bringing them to India, bringing the professors to India, and the students who were interested, the senior students who were interested, to India. And we came up with this idea, and I presented it to Cyber and Gillian and her team, and they were very supportive of how we can put this together. And I will run through to give you an idea of what it's like and what we like to offer with this virtual PDIB program to India, so that you get an idea about how we intend to present it. But it'll be a quick run through to give you an exposure. So I will share my screen at this point, and see if I can get this right. Oh. Okay, this is the PDIB program. If we can see the screen. And I will also address Jonathan's question as well. Jonathan Doe, your question about of poverty tourism. What we're doing is not poverty tourism. I'm totally against poverty tourism. I don't think the idea is to expose students just to poverty. That's not the idea. It's to expose them to a way of life of people in other countries. And in our case, it's India, but to make them appreciate the values, because I don't think the people in the village of Banwari where we work, and I'll talk about that in a while, I don't believe that they're unhappy and they're not poor. They're comfortable in their own way of life and what it is, but we're trying to make their lives better. So we'll talk more about that when I come to this. The program, the PDIB India program for 2020, that's going to happen in December, is not real, but it's virtual. And how are we going to work on this? So, what we'll do is we'll have a program which gives a virtual presentation where I will actually present it to people like as though I'm taking them to India to give them an idea. So there will be videos. I'm not going to run through all of this, but just to give you an idea, there will be videos which will show India and
this is the voice of an
India
imperial
and what
past.
it's about.
The sound of horses and the strong walk of men. Do you feel me? This is your cultural thrill. The smell of a pop.
So videos like that, but we'll show them over a period. We've discussed how we're going to do this, and it's going to be probably 75 minutes on each presentation over 5 days. So over 5 days, we'll actually do a presentation showing different parts of the country, different cities in the country, and business houses, and how we'll take them through. So there'll be the exposure to India, there'll be an introduction to India, we'll talk about the country, we'll give a general introduction about the history, about the kingdoms in India and the colonial rule. So various other aspects about the different languages and the countless accents. We'll talk about the politics of India, and then some general trivia about how large India is, with 1.3 billion people and the largest electorate anywhere in the world, about economically how it's grown and what are the challenges India faces. And then we'll give every city there'll be a visit to every city where we will actually do a videos of the monuments, of the streets, of the people. We'll do this entire experience of actually coming and visiting the city and seeing what it's about and the monuments. And then we will have company visits. The idea of company visits is not just going to be one of talking about the company, but our intention is to bring in we'll select the companies, of course, in consultation with the professors, and we will then bring in an official from the company. I'll give you one example. There'll be a senior official from the company. Now, in this case, say if it's Matrix, we'll have Matrix. We'll have a senior official make a presentation, which will run essentially on a PowerPoint, and we'll have videos of the company and what the process is. If it's something in IT, then we'll take the video around the company to show what's happening in the company and what's being done there. If it's a company like this, which is working on services, their products, their services, and who are their partners and what are they actually doing. And we'll have something like this, which is a presentation
Hey everyone.
of...
I hope all of you are keeping safe and staying well. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce to you Matrix Cellular International Services, an Indian company. I work with Matrix as an AVP, handling the consumer interfacing mobile application called the X Factor. Matrix was founded in 1995 when we pioneered the concept of.
So the idea really is to not to, I'm not showing you exactly what it is, but to give you an idea. So how do you do a virtual business visit? So this is it. So we'll have somebody actually speaking, and in this case, it was the vice president of special projects. So she would make a presentation, she'd do the PowerPoint, and she would then, we'll bring them to attend the seminar, the webinar, to answer questions directly as with a business visit. It's a Q&A session. So we'll have probably a 45-minute visit to a company. So the idea is to visit about 4 or 5 companies, plus visit the cities that are that's part of the program. So that was the virtual internship that we're working with Cyberon. Going on to the annual program that we have with the service learning. And here I'll give you a quick run on what the village is about and how it has been working. So this is Incentive Foundation, our foundation, which is linked to the company, which is Inspiration India. And we've been there in this village for 15 years now. And it's a relationship with the village where we actually have a person in charge who's from the village. We've hired her as part on our roles, and her job is to interact with the women and the children. And we are working with the government school there and trying to see how they can improve the education system in the school, and with the women on how to improve their lives. So there'll be a story on the village. We talk about the village and what the village is about. There is a very nice video which I run here, which will be about the village. We'll talk about that, and then we'll give you what we do with the students. Of course, is they'll spend some time with the school, where the government school children are quite excited when the students come from the university to teach them for the 5 days that they're there. So that's kind of an interaction that's good for them as well. The Women's Empowerment Program, it's something that's been running for several years now, where we've been able to help the women make a little bit of extra money so that they can help their families do better. A few little advantages, but one of the most and key factors which we found that the women, all of them, really wanted to do was to put their kids into better schools, because the government school system is very, very basic. It's not really all that good, but the private school system is better. So one of our own programs is using this to help the women get their children admitted to private schools. I'll talk a little bit more about the schools in a minute. The skilling classes, of course, that we do, David talked about it. We actually took girls, empowered girls to study so that they could pass their school when the government school did not have 12th grade in the village, and girls in the village could not leave the village to go out and go to schools outside the village, because the conservative nature of the village didn't allow them. So we got them admitted into what you call an education system where they could study with us in the village. We trained them, we taught them, and they wrote the examination with the open school. And so the open school system, so we actually took 19 girls and took them through school. They passed out of school. We managed to actually take a couple of them through university as well, using the open university system. So that is for the education. And for the skilling, of course, as much as possible, we're working with the women to help them sew and make these products, which David spoke about. So this has been actually pretty successful in that those women have, the 19 women who are part of the cooperative, part of our self-help group, are able to to help their own families because of this support we've been giving them. So this is where we interact, and it gives a greater exposure to how and these are the products, the kind of products that these women have made, and which is sold, and they all have a story behind them, and it's a pretty interesting project. The association with the IBHS has a special significance for us, and that's an annual event that we do when IBHS comes to India. And this is a video I think you'd enjoy. Oops.
If we're ever lost and found,
So we've actually worked also with the poorest children in the village. We've taken three of them actually, taken them out of the village and put them in better schools, because one of our beliefs is that education will change lives, and taking poor kids who come from families which cannot really get any way to get out of this vicious circle of poverty is to actually give them a better education. So funding education is part of our initiative to make this, make it possible for kids to get into a better future. So this is children in the school, and that is what I wanted to share with you as far as the project is concerned. So we've got the service learning project. We've got the PDIB program that's coming in, and of course virtual internships. In fact, this interaction has been so good with David and his and the faculty in FIU that we have even the capstone projects which are being now worked on with us and the village. So there's interesting possibilities. What's it all about? I mean, we've been in the business of bringing American university students to India over the last so many years, and we've been bringing them. We also work with the Semester at Sea, so it's a very large program where we bring students in. But you know, a lot of what goes on is about not just the education that you get from what the teachers are teaching you in classroom, but also to experience life as it is in the countries that you go to. And when you come to India, we think it's so important to actually interact with a village like what we're doing with the foundation. And the one thing that as David said has been a constant statement that we hear, that it's changed my life. And that's what it is. When we're changing lives, we're actually changing the world view of people, so that students can have a better understanding of what the world is like out there. And that's what we're doing. So it gives me great pleasure to actually be part of this association with FIU and the thinking that the professors, Sumit and David and Gillian and her team and all of the professors who've looked at how they've got to internationalize the education that they're giving to their students, so that they can give them a better idea of what is, their students can have a better idea of what the world is like out there, and get them a better worldview. So I'd be happy to take on questions to address a couple of those points. Yes, as I told you about I really don't think the the issue here is that of poverty tourism, because I don't think tourism should be taken, and I've seen that as well, where tourists are taken to see poverty by seeing difficult life of people who live in slums. But we don't do that kind of travel or tourism. What we are telling you is, come see how the challenges are faced and how we are able to overcome the challenges, because I think that's what students should come and see, and they should participate in overcoming those challenges. And education is a very powerful tool, and yes, work that people do in order to earn an extra income is also a very powerful tool. And that's what I think that we've been able to inculcate and convey to the students.
And Anoop, there were a couple questions that came in, so I wanted to just read them out to you, so maybe you can come up with the answer, give some further information. So we have Dr. Youngsum Pak. Hi, how are you? He's from Loyola Marymount University in California, and he'd like to know, he says, could you please tell us more about specific tasks or activities that the students are doing as part of the virtual international internship?
Right, we actually, David and I sat and worked on this, and David helped structure. We had 3 interns here, so we structured specific responsibilities for each of the students. Now, a lot of their work was with the village, and so the women's program, rather specifically the women's empowerment program. So we had work related to that. One of the girls who was very good with IT, in fact, that video you saw, which I showed you, was from one of the girls who had come and filmed India last year. So she worked on a website which she worked for the village. That was one of the tasks she had. One of the girls focused on how she would, when schools opened up, and when Miami opened up and she'd be back in school, she'd be able to approach a retail sources for sale of the products that they would come up with. Another one of them worked on the competition that we would have for selling of these masks, which came with a story, and how these the COVID face masks would be sold, and what would be the competition, and then we said we'd sponsor the place for that winner on the trip that would take place hopefully in March. So yeah, each one had specific set of responsibilities, and every time we met, we discussed those responsibilities, and they worked over the week on getting those things ready. So getting flyers ready, tabulating the inventory and what they had in stock and how the sale was going to happen, getting the website prepared, etc. So they all worked on their tasks as it was given to them. And then we had, of course, interaction and discussion on the subject we were discussing for that particular session. So that was how we worked it.
Can I just add a few things there? Yeah, so as Anoop mentioned, we sat down prior to the beginning of these internships and came up with a series of tasks that each intern was responsible for. So one of the students, the one that's a wizard with media and technology, she developed a few different videos for different audiences. One for students to recruit students to the organization. One for alumni, that people who have gone through the program. We're working on maintaining that connection, because there is this powerful connection that we have with these students now for 5 or 6 years who have gone through this and want to stay connected, and now are in corporate positions where they have the potential to really to help out. And another video targeting sponsors, because our plan is to go out within the business community and to raise awareness and raise money for this trip moving forward. We also worked on developing, we have a story card that goes along with each item that's sold. We're developing another one which features one of the women who worked on one of these products, whether it's a purse or a tote bag or whatever. So they'll actually get a card with that woman's photo and a little biographical information about her, just to personalize the product and the experience, which is really important. Also developing a social media strategy, an integrated social media strategy, a strategy for selling the products to different retail establishments, boutiques, and we have a yoga bag that we've developed. So, you know, going out and contacting yoga studios, which typically have, you know, a little shop at the front where people can, you know, buy you know, a mat or a bottle of water, and sometimes other products as well. Coming up with a strategy for wholesale as well as for FIU. We think there's a lot of potential for these products to be sold to on campus to different, you know, different schools and different departments that have giveaways, for example, for conferences. It makes a lot of sense to have products to give away that have a strong connection to FIU, that are designed by FIU students, and that the proceeds are going back to support local development. So working on that and so forth. So we had a very detailed plan that each student was working on, and we had weekly check-ins with them over Zoom to check their progress. And also Anoop typically gave a presentation where, again, he, as he showed you, we discussed Indian culture and history and religion, and so that was part of it as well.
So let me add about the PDIB program. So this is the first time we are going to launch this virtual PDIB India program in December 2020. And we are very excited because it's a very innovative, you know, way of doing things given the COVID-19 situation. We have run very successful FDIB, you know, on a real-time basis, you know, traveling to India since 2008. So we have done it for 7 years, and there have been over 100 participants, faculty members who went to India. But this is the first time we're going to do as a virtual program, and we're excited. It's a 5-day program, 5-day event. So if you're interested, you know, please write to Jillian Avendano, the program director at Cyber, because we'd like to, you know, send you more information so that you can sign up for the PDIB India program. Thank you.
I have a quick poll, so I wanted to launch it, but I wanted to say a couple, you know, closing things. I don't know if anybody would like to stick around if you have some other questions. There's like a few questions that are coming in. If Dr. Kundu, Dr. Wernick, and Anoop, if you guys are available for the next, you know, maybe we'll give it a few more minutes to make sure everybody has the questions answered. And if you find that your question's not answered, please feel free to email us, and we're always happy to speak. So as you heard about in the webinar, we at FIU, and I'm sure at all the other institutions in the US and abroad, we're trying to find ways that we can do things that we were doing previously, but virtually. We're living in unprecedented times that are unlike anything that we've ever gone through. So we have to find new ways, innovative ways to offer these types of experiences to our faculty and students. So some of the other things that we are doing that we didn't really mention as much is that we're really putting a lot of emphasis on our COIL program. That's the Collaborative Online International Learning, or some people call it International Virtual Exchange, where two programs or two classes, one in one country, another in another country, they collaborate together where the students and the faculty work together on a project. And so they have that interaction. The students gain experience in working with international teams. And that we've been putting a lot of emphasis on that. We also have, as well as Dr. Wernick's students that did a fantastic job in their virtual internship. We had 7 other students that were working in other countries, and that was during the summer, and we're continuing to offer that. And we're encouraging faculty to take advantage of virtual conferences. You know, maybe, I guess, a lot of these experiences, you know, we can argue that they're not exactly the same as if you travel to another country, because that's a different experience. But in the meantime, you know, while we wait to be able to travel, we don't know when, hopefully soon, you know, these are things that people can do. And also our professional development in international business. We really wanted to travel to India in December. But since we can't, we still do want to offer that experience where you can feel like you're going to India, but you don't have to buy an airline ticket. You know, you can cut a lot of costs. You could be in the comfort of your own home and still learn new things and hear from faculty in India or CEOs of companies that maybe you wouldn't have had access before, to speak to. So I think that, we have to be creative in these times and find new ways of doing things. So I've seen on the chat a couple of people, I think, let's see, we had Georgia State's doing a lot with like collaborative online learning. I don't know if anybody's doing yet like virtual study abroad. I don't know what that would look like exactly, but that's something that I think that people are looking into. And then, yeah, let me just take a quick look at the questions. Dr. Kundu, Dr. Wernick, and Anoop, are you able to see the questions as well, or would you like me to kind of?
Yeah, I can see them. I can see them. I think you've answered most of them.
Yeah, I think there's one from, I think it's Ravi Chandran. I hope that I'm pronouncing that correct. There's a question that I don't think we may have addressed slightly, but it says, may I know how will the students be assessed upon completion of their visit? I think this was more for like the IBHS students. This is overall, it's a fantastic all around human value exposure to students. So with that program and also with the virtual internships, when they are completed, are the students graded on their experience? Do they write, do they do a project? Do they have to write up, some type of document or report on their experience?
Yeah. So there's for the internships, the virtual internships, there are, they're also taking a class, so they're getting credit for it. And there are, in addition to the Zoom sessions that I have with Anoop, they have weekly meetings. Their advisor was Dr. Newberry, who I think was on the chat or was on the Zoom. And then my understanding is that there's a reflections paper that they have to submit at the end of it. So there are various milestones that they need to complete and a paper to receive academic credit for it. Now for the IBHS students, there is not anything formal because again, this is a service trip for them. They're not receiving any type of academic credit. Yeah, so nothing in terms of follow up with them, but in terms on the front end, we do typically have them all when we're deciding who to invite on the trip, fill out a survey where they're answering questions about why they want to go on the trip and what they can contribute, and that's part of the selection process.
And I think during these times too, it's very important for students to still be involved. They can't just sit around and say, well, I guess I can't travel to India. So the students that Dr. Wernick had and the other ones that did the internships were very proactive in saying, okay, I'm at home. I can't do a whole lot, but what can I do in order to still continue to have this experience and, have something that I can, because these students, when they go into the job market, they're going to have that extra, thing that they can put on their resume to say, during these times, I was innovative and I learned more and I still worked internationally and did a virtual internship or, things of that nature. And then for the faculty who's still involved in international experiences, I think that's important because you're still bringing something back to your classroom. You're learning more. Maybe if you're not familiar with, let's say for India or any of the other programs that are being offered, if you're not familiar with it, you have the opportunity to learn more. You don't have to, maybe things have stopped you in the past from doing it because it's difficult to just stop your life and get up and travel if you have a family or if, you for any other reasons. But in this way, you're still getting this experience virtually in the comfort of your home, and I think that's important. I'm trying to look too to see if there was any other questions. I think there are, let's see, there's a lot of comments in the chat, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, everybody's mentioning different things that they're doing. Let's see. Villanova, they've initiated a global business challenge, which is a consulting project in lieu of their typical global practicum class. And that's interesting. I know there's a lot of like virtual MBA competitions that people are doing. Oh, hey, Dr. Pack. Yeah, we actually worked, I just saw a message from Dr. Pack from Loyola Marymount University. We worked with them last year with the faculty development trip in Korea. And so he just asked if we'd be interested in doing, or, you know, had we started thinking about an FDIB in Korea, and I think that's a fantastic idea. So we will talk about that. You know, maybe we can meet sometime this week. That would be fantastic. And someone asked if we are offering virtual tours for students in other countries. I imagine that FIU is. I don't know the exact details at the moment. We've been working in India, and we've been lucky enough to work with Mr. Anup Nair. He's familiar with doing it. He's a pro, and he's been doing it for over 40 years. So he's there, which makes it especially like easier for us, I guess, because we have someone that's there on the ground rather than us trying to figure things out while we're here. So his partnership has really been imperative in making all of these things work. And in the case of the other internships that the students said, we worked with organizations to place students in internships with companies in, we had students in Greece, we had students in Australia, China, a number of different places. And I don't know if anybody else wanted to add anything that we may have forgotten or anything additional that we wanted to say. I appreciate everybody for joining. We're very happy to share our experiences and offer this webinar series. We have another webinar coming up on September 1st, so please stay tuned. We'll be sending out information on that very shortly. And then if you have any other questions or you think of anything, or you'd like a copy of the recording, a couple people have asked about that, or maybe you would like the contact information for Dr. Kundu, Dr. Wernick, or Mr. Anup Nair, feel free to, you can even write us at cyber@fiu.edu, or my email, which is where the invitation came from. So please feel free to reach out. We are always, you know, here and glad to speak with you and talk to other people who share the passion of international education and business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. Well, everybody have a great rest of your week, and hope to see you on the next webinar. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jill. Bye-bye.